Hi everybody, I'm gonna show you the new, well, at least new in this part of the world, Ibanez TSA15 tube head and the TSA112 speaker cabinet. The TSA15 is a 15-watt tube head with a built-in classic Ibanez tube screamer circuit in front of the amp. Just like if you would place a tube screamer pedal on the floor in front of your tube amp like guitar players have done for decades now. I've used this amp for a couple of weeks now and I'm super happy with it. I've used it both live and in the studio and I really love the way it sounds and how easy it is to get a good tone from it. It's also really transparent in the way that it lets your personality of guitar really shine through. You're really gonna hear a huge difference depending on what you plug into it. It's really easy to get a great tone at low volume with this amp, and that for me is a super feature in a tube amp. It also has really effective tone controls, which makes it really easy to color the sound in many different directions to suit your guitar or just your personal taste. It also takes pedals really good, and that combined with it having an effects loop makes it the perfect amp for small gigs and an even better amp for studio work. But let's go in and have a closer look at what it has to offer. Okay, let's look at the front. What we got here is our guitar input, and then we have the tube screamer circuit, and it is like a tube screamer always are. It's overdrive, it's tone, and it's level. And then we have a little switch to turn the tube screamer on and off, and this is also switchable with the foot switch. Then comes the 6 dB clean boost. This is also switchable with the foot switch. And the clean boost is wired after the tube screamer, so it doesn't really make your sound any dirtier. It's just raise the volume 6 dB and open up the treble a little bit. It's really perfect for all those guitar parts that you want to stand out, solos or anything. After the boost, do we have the actual amp section. And like I said before, it's two 12AX7 in the preamp and two 6v6 in the power amp. The controls of the amps are bass, treble and volume. And then we have our standby switch and our power on-off switch. It's not a complicated amp to work with, it's really intuitive and really easy to find a good tone. But it's still very versatile in the way it can sound, even if it doesn't really have a lot of controls, because the controls are really effective. On the back, you got the power, and then you got a really interesting switch that lets you turn the amp between 15-watt pentode and 5-watt triode mode. And for me, this is one of the main features of this amp. What it does is that it lets you get that hard-working, hard-push tube amplifier tone on a lot lower volume. So it's really perfect when you need to keep the volume down, like in a home studio, small gigs, or when you use the amp as a practice amp, but you don't want to sacrifice the tone by not having the tubes working hard enough. Then you got a bunch of speaker outputs, and you have the possibility of hooking up 2.8, 2.16, 1.4, 1.8 or 1.16 ohm cabinets. Most anything you can ever need. Then we have the foot switch input, and the foot switch lets you switch between the tube screamer on and off and the boost function on and off. And then we have the effects loop, and that was a feature I really loved to find there, because for me is it a huge advantage of having the possibility to choose between having my effects in front of the amp or having my effects in the effects loop of the amp. For an example, a delay will sound completely different if you put it in front of the amp or if you put it in the loop of the amp. So it really adds a lot to the versatility and the possibilities of the amp of having the effects loop there, and I really love that feature. tube screamer section sounds like a good classic Ibanez tube screamer should do. The sound that we guitar players have used and loved for many years now. There really isn't much left to say about them that haven't already been said a million times before. But I thought I'm going to quickly try to show you where it starts and where it ends in its overdrive range. So let's start with overdrive on 0. A stringy, a warm sound with great separation and a little bit of compression to it. And then with overdrive on max. Still stringy and warm with good separation, but a lot more compression to it.